I think one of the points that Robert made also, which we can talk about now, but as we always say, we stand by the commitments we make to people's time, is the idea about Biden losing like Gen Z and maybe even some millennials. And I don't know the exact numbers. Someone could Google this and tell us, but it's something like Biden won by something. I know he won by millions of votes if you add up all the votes, but the reality, because of their system, he won by something like 40 or 50 or 60 or 70,000 votes in 4 counties. Like those 70,000 votes in a few number of counties were actually the difference between him winning and losing. And so if you were to lose kind of those votes, then welcome back to the White House, President Trump. So yeah, I mean, I guess Biden's got to pick which is more important, that he keeps Trump out of the White House, perhaps steers fascism away from the American political system, or he keeps the Zionists happy and perhaps those who have always been intimately intertwined with Israel and the political system happy, which is he's going to have to pick one.
Yeah, I think if you game this out, it gets real concerning real quick. Because if you have Trump gain the White House again, he'll go full throttle support for Israel. The weapons taps will be well open. He'll do some really inconsidered attack on Iran and potentially kick off that whole region. And he'll abandon Ukraine and Europe. He will throw NATO to the wolves. And I think what we're seeing in Europe at the moment is a lot of those NATO countries going, holy shit, support from the US is not guaranteed. So let's build more weapons factories. Let's basically rearm. The mass rearming going on, and especially coming out of Sweden joining NATO, is these guys know that America, the support that they have had from America since the end of World War II is gone if Trump gets back in.
Yeah. And look, like that question I asked Robert, which was obviously fairly loaded and obviously aimed at the people for the past 6 months who have been saying Israel has the right to defend itself. You're following their logic. An attack on Israel's soil by an outside agency, Hamas, means they've got the right to defend themselves. Following that logic, those same people who have been saying that now must, by definition, albeit unlikely, say, yeah, it's fair. Iran has the right to defend itself. Like, we've never said that. And I don't think either of us, truly not speaking about, believe that, turning Gaza into a car park is defending oneself. But that excuse being used by people, if it gets used back to them now, they'll say, oh, no, it's different. It's like when they had that idea about, a whole bunch of more conservative right-wing people started to talk about the vaccine and my body, my choice, were the same ones who wanted to, ban abortions and they wouldn't let women have my body, my choice. So I get that. I get that this is horrific and we're not trying to be pithy and light-hearted about the situation, but yeah, there are some certain bad actors in society who, if you say that back to them, well, Iran has the right to defend itself, will come hell or high water say how it's different. Whereas I think a international body, Hamas, attacked a sovereign nation, Israel, and the residents of it. Okay, an international body, in this case Israel, attacked the citizens of a sovereign body, in this case Iran. Now the scales are vastly different. The people who died are vastly different. But if you're in a court of law, both would be deemed breach of Geneva Conventions, as Robert Patman just told us. So, you can't have it both ways. People who have been using that excuse to basically excuse the idea from flattening Gaza, or be honest actors and say it's the same for Iran. They can do what they want. Chewie.
Now, Israel has the capability, and they've used it before, of literally doing an airstrike on Iran.
Mm-hmm.
They have flown F-16s right across Jordan, at Syria and Iran, maybe not Syria, and Iraq, and struck at targets in Israel. At the time, it was the Iranian nuclear program that they were targeting, but they have that ability to do that. Iran does not have the ability to do the same to Israel. only got ballistic missiles and drones. But I think depending on how Netanyahu's going to take this, Iran's next worry is, I think, an airstrike somewhere like Tehran or wherever, military targets.
Yeah.
And that would be quite the escalation. And I think at that point, the US really needs to pick what they're going to do. And I think all of these things of like, oh, we don't support this, we do support this, we're ironclad support for Israel and that sort of thing. There's so many mixed messages there, and there's so many times that they've thrown down a gauntlet to Israel to back off or to de-escalate the situation that Israel has outright ignored, and the US has rewarded them with more weapons systems, more engines, more support. There is not a single message that the US has given that says, if you keep doing this, there is a negative for you. So why would you listen?
Yeah.
You've had US and European support for 60 plus years in the region because you were seen as the stable outpost of Western values. And now Israel is one of the most destabilizing actors in that region. It is crazy.
It's kind of like
it's drawn focus away from Ukraine. It's drawn focus away from talking of Russia. It's those what's Russia's angle in this? Traditionally, they've been allied with Arab countries around Israel. They've been allied with Iran. So maybe there's a play in there as well of like, hey guys, can you just fucking kick something off so people stop looking at me? That'd be great.
I also think, and this is going to be spun by some people if they want to. I get it, and there'll be various words that start with anti and end with might thrown at me for saying this. But I am thinking that, this is a strange analogy, but when the teenager at school loses their dad and they go off the rails for 6 months and the school goes, okay, there's reasons why we're going to treat this kid with kid gloves. There's reasons we're going to allow them maybe behaviors or whatever that we don't allow the other students because of what they've been through. It feels like for the past 60, 70 years, Israel's been treated like sort of the child who suffered the worst atrocity in the modern history. And they've somewhat been given a pass, but it feels like we're coming to the end of that time. I wrote down statute of limitation, and it might be a bit clinical, but the statute of limitation for kind of letting Israel get away with whatever they got because of the horrific events of their recent history feels like it's coming to an end. And it feels like people around the world are kind of going, you know what, guys, stop. Enough is enough. We understand the history. We understand how horrific it was. We understand we need to make space for you. We understand we have to look the other way occasionally. And I'm talking about the international world now. Look the other way because you've had stuff to go through. But this is stopping. This is enough. And I mean, when Biden says that we're not supporting them retaliating against Iran, that might sound to us Kiwis like, nah, that's a bit weak. But in America, that's a pretty bloody strong statement for America to Americans, because up until now they've been, yeah, look, we're just with you, whatever you need. Although in saying that, Chewie, come back to the fact that they still supply them with all the weapons and stuff, as Robert was saying, to do what they want, even though they're telling them not to do it. And I just get the sense that, maybe Netanyahu's term is coming to an end. I don't know whether that means literally shortly or in a while, but the ideology that he follows, the iron fist that he follows, might be going out the door, and a new international model might be coming up with a number and the percentage. I mean, I've seen polls in Israel of up to 70% of citizens aren't happy with how Netanyahu was operating, especially in the Gaza situation. So maybe I don't want to be flippant and talk about that analogy. I just mean maybe the time for their horrific past and being given a pass for it is coming to an end, and now they're being called on their actions rather than being excused for them by the international, by governments around the world, Chewie.
Yeah. There's that hangover from the Holocaust, and I think the way that Israel has developed, there's things that I can understand. You know, they've spent most of the history of the modern Israeli state is one of having to defend itself by a lot of very well armed and populated countries around them, and that's prompted a history of, if we get hit, we hit back hard and we hit back immediately.
Yeah.
And that's just been built on. They're an overmatch for everybody in that region. They're nuclear armed, whether they have officially said so or not, and it's probably the same for Iran. That is, everybody should be super worried about that. And I think when we talk about the US elections, you know, that's going to be decided on, very much like our one, on domestic issues. Like, American voters really don't give a shit about the things that we give a shit about.
Except for the younger ones. The younger ones
Yeah.
are different. They look more internationally. They do look more at climate change issues and that kind of stuff. I agree with you in general, but if Biden loses, let's be silly, all of the young vote, half of the young vote, 10% of the young vote, that could be the difference.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They are driven enough to go, I disagree with Biden, the current president, so much I can't in good faith vote for him. And then they just don't vote at all.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they're not actively voting for Trump. They're just leaving space for him. And like that's the thing with their system. Where else can they put their vote?
Yeah.
They just don't turn out.
Yeah.
They don't take their day off work to go and vote. They don't travel for 40 miles to vote. They just go, fuck, I don't have a dog in this fight and they're both terrible, so I'm not going to vote. And this is a problem when you have people in a position where they don't have a valid choice to vote for, they disengage.